So welcome to Prerona Television Canada on behalf of Global Academy of Holistic Leadership and Coaching, and in collaboration with Prerona TV, we are conducting our leadership speaker series, and today is our 46th episode. We are very happy that our topic is leadership and social influence. Advocate Jiaur Rahman is with us, our regular speaker and trainer. He is the CEO and IITM and adjunct faculty of Independent University. Now I invite Advocate Jiaur Rahman to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward Promir Mondal. Welcome everyone in Canada, and good evening in Canada, and good morning in Bangladesh and rest of the world. So normally, this is our regular series. We have been doing it for the last 46th session. This is our actually 46th session. And let me start off by sharing my screen. So I think all of you can see my screen. So today's topic is leadership and social influence. Leadership and social influence. So we have actually had a session on leadership and social influence previously, but in that session we had discussed on some areas which we are going to be avoiding today, and we are going to go into something slightly different, and we will be putting some ideas on how to create social influence, or what is necessary to put yourself in a position of influence as a leader. So moving forward, I normally start off with uh, quotations. So here is one from US previous President Ronald Reagan. He says, the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. So clearly, we understand from this statement that as a good leader, obviously, you would like to do some great things for your country or for your organization. That goes without saying. But one of the key issues for a good leadership is to ensure that you are dealing with your people who are responding to you in a positive mindset and a positive light. So you actually are driving the passion and energy of those people, so they collectively with you can do great things in life. So as a professional, we always feel that I have to do the best as a professional. There is no harm in having that feeling, but being a leader, you should also wear that hat where you have to start thinking that not only do I have to do my best, I have to engage in a certain level of discussion, certain level of communication with my people, so that collectively I inspire these people to do their best. So my job is to bring out the ultimate output from these people through nurturing, through discussion, through creating incentives for people, through building rapport, bringing in trust, and nourishing their spirit. So all of these combined will actually create this opportunity for your people to elevate themselves to their present condition and start realizing that they can do better. So your job as a great leader is to just trigger that set of events where they start to realize that they can do much better than what they have been doing all these years. So a good leader is actually the inspirer, actually the catalyst for the change to take place. So we believe that a good leader should really focus on bringing their people on board with great energy so that they can produce a wonderful result for themselves and for the entire enterprise, be it a society, be it an organization or a department. Moving forward, this is again by Andrew Carnegie, another big industrialist, and also, I would say, a very famous philosopher in some respect. He says, no man will make a great leader who wants to do it all himself, or to get all the credit for doing it. It resonates with what Ronald Reagan had just said, where we talked about a leader's role is to inspire others. Similarly, Andrew Carnegie is also suggesting that You are creating an influence on the other person. So you are not just pushing yourself to the limit. You're not just pushing yourself to being extremely successful. You are getting all the people involved in this process, and you're not taking the credit for yourself. So, in other words, some opportunity comes around uh, in your corner. You work at it. You develop a certain potential and you realize certain gains for your organization or for your department. And then if you take all the credit for it, then you are truly not a good leader. You are a good manager, so to speak. You have been quick in identifying the opportunity, you capitalize on the opportunity, and then you move forward. But you didn't give any credit to your people, or you gave little credit to your people. That kind of slows the people down. You may not see it in their direct actions, but internally they will have this feeling that I was part of the deal. I was there in the thick and thin of the affairs, and I pushed myself and I really worked at it. But at the end, all the credit was taken by someone else. So that is not proper leadership. So as a leader, we have to understand that other people matter. And even if you take a big chunk of the work and you do the big chunk, you have to also realize that it is without the support of your team members, maybe the chunk of the action would not culminate into something productive unless somebody is doing some additional part in order to get the things done. For example, imagine you are writing out a fantastic report, but if it's not properly presented through a PowerPoint slide or maybe a graphic presentation, that presentation does not bring in the right set of results. So in this process, maybe you put the entire ideas of what will go into the presentation, what will go into the PowerPoint slides, but others were involved in putting the graphics, the music, the videos, whatever. So it's the entire process. Maybe you took 80% of the lead, others came in with their 10, 15, 20%. But on the floor, if you had just claimed that this is your singular effort and you had produced this magical output, then maybe you would have gotten some credits and kudos from the people. But at the end, you are not a true leader. You didn't inspire your people. You did not reflect on the fact that others' actions, others' benefits, others' efforts were into this process. So, as a good leader, you must not be thinking in these terms. You must not think or act individually. You must be a person of collective mindset. Of course, as a leader, people expect you to lead with much of the work or much of the ideas, etc. That goes without saying. But in the spirit of moving forward, you need to move with a team. You need to inculcate the spirit of teamwork. In this perspective, you are actually bringing the total energy of the team, and the team is inspired. So I would be very keen on seeing that all of you should take this idea to your heart, that I do not mean the entire I'm not the entire story of the enterprise. Other people matter. So make other people matter in your enterprise, and then collectively you are going to get something remarkably good. And this enterprise is going to be a team, a enterprise which is going to be moving from being an average organization to being a great enterprise. So that should be our spirit. Everyone should work towards a common goal, giving credit to everyone within the team. So the credit must be distributed within your team as a good leader. Moving forward, this is by Nelson Mandela. Lead from the back and let others believe they are in the front. Very powerful statement, very important a philosophy as well. You are leading, you know that you are the leader, you are leading, you are there in the story. You're not always, showing your face all the time, telling people that, look, I am the leader, look, I am leading. You allow others to grow with you. You are there nurturing, nourishing. so that as a team, things are moving forward in the right earnest, in the right direction. What will happen if you do that? People will feel that you're giving the floor for others to grow. People will feel that you are there to engage in the spirit of collective output. A good leader will always have that feeling. In the last 45th session, we have been talking about leadership growth and nurturing and inculcating the spirit of leadership amongst the people. So this is a very powerful philosophy, a very far powerful set of mindset that you have to hold on to yourself. You have to hold it dear and make it work for you. So you are there, you will guide, you may be the ultimate leader. If things go wrong, you will have to take the blame, but you ought to be believing in the fact that you need to bring out the strengths and inputs and support of other people. And that's how you actually grow. You will notice that in different organization, be it a social or political organization, if you are the sole spokesperson all the time in any of the discussions, and where you're doing all of the work yourself, and you're trying so desperately hard to promote yourself in media, in the public eye, etc., and in all the actions, you want to be reflected as the Superman personality, almost like having a cult feeling. It may not be the best appropriate strategy, because people realize that any enterprise, any organization, any movement, it's not just one person. Yes, one person can shape and guide and inspire and be at the helm of things. For example, in the war of liberation of Bangladesh, through which we got our the flag of Bangladesh, it was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we call him Bangabandhu, who led from the front. But it was not just his effort singularly which changed the fate of Bangladesh. We had the huge number of people, the Muktijuddhas, the families, the supporters, the international supporters who came in. And even we received some benefit from the Indian Army to support and engage in the entire war of liberation. And that's how we got our Bangladesh, the independent and sovereign Bangladesh. So obviously, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was the leader of the entire enterprise, the entire movement. But it's not just one person who delivered the Bangladesh. It was a set of people led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So this is an example of political leadership in the sphere of emancipation of a set of people, in this case, Bangladesh. Same philosophy goes with, let's say, a corporation where things are not going good, everything is going bust. People are feeling disillusioned, products are not selling well, R&D team has gone awry, and the outcome that was expected and the new research was supposed to bring in new products and services, they have not worked out because there is internal strife, etc. So many things and so many variables are not aligned. You come in as a leader, you tweak things, you start bringing the communication back in order, you start building the fabric of trust amongst your people, you do all of that. Fantastic. But if you are always taking that responsibility and you're always trying to push yourself out into the front, then maybe it might be a transient benefit, might be a transient outcome that is taking place, and it may look all nice and dandy, but in the reality, in the greater scope of the organization, you may not be actually doing a service. You may be actually doing disservice to your organization because you may not see it, but the internal spirit, the internal energy will become timid. People will think that we really are not part of the equation. We don't play part of the game. We are insignificant small pieces of the puzzle. If that philosophy, if that mindset kicks in this midst of your team member, then you are in big trouble. So you don't necessarily need to be at the front all the time. Sometimes you could be at the back, sometimes you could be at the side, sometimes you allow your people to lead, obviously with a certain vision that you and your team have set for the organization. You don't want people to lead from the front in particular in different angles, and then all of a sudden your grand vision is thwarted. You are completely in a chaos. You don't want that type of situation to take place. You want a strategically aligned output to come about for your organization, but you should allow other input and other people's mindset to kick in, their philosophy, their ways of thinking, their approach to leadership to come in. And so it's a team effort and people move in the right direction. So that those are important issues in life. And if you realize that even in the enterprise called family, if you're always trying to strike the leadership role and trying to push yourself to be the leader in the family, it may not resonate well. It may create some kind of disharmony and discord. So sometimes you have to take a softer approach, be at the back, let others come in and roll out certain decisions as long as it's not devastating for the family or for the organization. So these are part of uh, realistic approach that you have to take. And these are learned through having a very proper social influence that you can bring on board. So we'll look into that later in this presentation. Moving forward, I normally have a definition on leadership, and this is always my own definition. So in this session, leadership is about managing people through positive social influences and shaping opinions. So we have two words: positive social influences and shaping opinion. These are two magical issues. If you don't have influence on your people, if you don't have that positive influence, then how can you shape people's mind? How can you get them to do what you're thinking? It would be almost impossible, because it's a community we are talking about. Maybe one or two people, you can force them to obedience. We know a psychological term called obedience, listening to people without much logical perspective behind. So you know, closing your eyes and totally listening to someone is sort of obedience, which is not good. You have to be a rational person, getting influence and then listening to the people. So obedience with logic, obedience with a perspective of what needs to be done and what is proper has to be blended in. And that's when you are actually creating the social influence. So obedience is good only if you have come through the ranks of creating social influence in their spirit. So a political leader obviously creates that obedience at the end of the day, but it doesn't come through stick or worrisome stresses that you put onto your people. If you're a good leader, you create the enterprise of a good political organization or social organization through positive influences, and slowly you start shaping the people's mindset. It's the philosophy of tweaking with people so that their perspective, their issues of ideas on socialization, issues how they would run about with their peers, how they would be focused on creating new agenda and creating the pressure points which are positive. How do you do all of that? So those are done through the social influence and then ultimately shaping your opinion. So that's the entire story of leadership. You are creating social influence and you're creating opinions, and one sits squarely with the other. You can't have one and then expect the other to go on the different direction. No, they have to go together and they have to be synchronous. So moving forward, we talked about shaping opinions previously. In this slide, we are going to be talking from a nurturing point of view. So shaping opinion is about bringing people to listen to your views. Your views have to be listened to and follow a certain path. If people just listen to you and they don't follow you, then you are not a good leader. You're not actually creating the new enterprise that you wish the enterprise to move in a particular direction. You're not doing that. Maybe you're sharing ideas, people are listening, people are forgetting. The new enterprise design will not kick in. The new enterprise will not come in because you have not been able to gel a particular energy within your team. And unless you gel this spirit, unless you capture their imagination and then nurture them into guiding them through a particular path, the output that you're intending, the vision that you have set for your organization, they will not pan out, they will not roll in. So it will be like you're slaving, you're being frustrated, you're telling people, you're speaking your story, but others are not picking up on the tabs of what is it that you're trying to sell. So the vision is lost, the philosophy is lost, the passion is lost. So it's not getting there. So shaping opinion is so vital. So how do you make that shaping opinion work? What traits should you have in order for you to actually create that opinion shaping perspective, opinion shaping environment? Number one is patience. You have to listen to your audience. You have to listen to your stakeholders. If you're always telling people, then at given point they will not listen to you. You need to embrace the philosophy that I'm here to listen. I'm here to get a lot of viewpoints, a lot of input from the people around me. When you make people in push, put them in that type of pedestal that you're here to listen, even if you're a bigger person in terms of stature, they will feel honored. They will feel that I have a role in this organization. So my leader is listening to me. So they will try to give out their best in terms of their thoughts, in terms of their input, and maybe some real gems will be sitting in their thoughts. Maybe some real gems will come about that you probably did not even notice. So that is very important. So having the patience factor very much intact is absolutely important. They might have discussions where they may raise a lot of argument, they may show their tantrums, they may show their upsetting and frustrating viewpoints. You as a leader, you can't be retorting, you can't be uh, pushing them back by saying that, hey, wait a minute, I don't expect you to say these. Then you're actually closing down their opportunity to be open and collaborative. So you want to give them the environment where they will be fearless in sharing their views. Obviously, you don't want them to scream at you. You create that environment so that you are responsibly nurturing the discussions. But having a complete mindset of patience is absolutely vital for a leader to shape opinions. Then you have to have the necessary condition which sits squarely on patience, which is logical frame of mind. If you're not listening, if you are trying to counter in your head, the other person is talking to you and you are putting some arguments in place that these are the points that you will be countering the other person, then obviously the discussion will not be working properly. If you look at the current context of the Middle East war, I would think that if there were patiently arriving at certain issues and they both parties had logical frame of mind, then I think much of the anguish, frustrations, and death could have been averted. I think the political sphere have not been properly negotiating the issues in on the ground in Palestine, and so that's why we are seeing so much death and destruction. And people of the world are actually standing behind the oppressed community in Palestine. So I think these issues are so important for a leader, a, a strategic leader doing strategic input and creating a strategic outcome for the organization, social organization, business organization, or political organization. So everything sits squarely on being logical. If you don't have the proper logic in place, no matter how smart the other person has been with their logic, with their thought process, with their tabling of points in a discussion, you are not listening, you have a closed mind, you just don't want to go that route, then it will not work out. You will not be able to shape the people's opinion, the audience, and they will be frustrated. So the other point in this process is having a sense which is logical and having a sense which is common sense. We know that common sense is one of the most uncommon thing in this world, specifically when you are in a corner and you have to survive. So you put up all your what should I say, you put up your mental barriers and you feel that you have sort of put yourself away from harm's length by not listening to anyone. You're just hearing people, but not truly listening. You're not engaging in discussion. Basically, you're not opening up your logical frame of mind. So you're not allowing common sense to seep through your invisible shields of obstinate viewpoint. Then things will not work. So as a leader, you have to be very, very open, and you have to be in a position to let your guards down. I believe letting your guards down would be difficult at certain times. We know that. But if you allow that type of situation to come in, then I think many people being in a logical frame of mind would take you to be a responsible person, a person with being truthful and being integrity driven and honest. Then they will start also becoming more responsible in their behaviors, in their actions, in their traits. So I think building your organization with patience, logical frame of mind, and common sense are key to shaping people's opinion. And last but not the least, ability to understand the context and scenario. It kind of sits with the idea of common sense. But if you are smart, if you understand the context, if you have a good reasoning process evolved, and if you know your the variables which are at play and which variables actually are actually more creating more harm, then it becomes so much easier for you to construct the new outcome that you are wanting, which is away from all these obstacles, away from all this chaos, confusion, and then a better set of results are coming for you and your enterprise or your country. So these are important. Understanding the context in the ground, understanding the scenario that are taking place on the ground is so important. You can't be pushing your ideas where a lot of frustrations have actually brewed, a lot of chaos had actually taken, a lot of destructions have actually taken in terms of physical destruction, or in terms of destruction in terms of trust, and in terms of fraying of friendship, in terms of all the issues which are so vital for human engagement and human bondage. If all of these issues have been thrown out the window, then it becomes very difficult to scenario. So in spite of that condition, ability to understand the conditions on the ground is so vital, so you can actually nurture and shape people's opinion. So these four issues, you can actually have more, but I've just contextualized the issue of shaping people's opinion in the framework of these four components. So if you're a true leader, and if you spend time realizing that you ought to be very patient with your team members, you ought to have a logical frame of mind, and common sense should be driving you, and ultimately you realize the context in which you are dealing with, then ultimately a set of good results will come about. So I would say that a lot of effort has to be expended in these issues. You can't just jump and try to solve things. Many things are simmering. A lot of frustrations have gone under the river for a long time. So you can't be having a magical uh, quick fix result. Sometimes it works, most often it won't. So you have to be having that context in your brain at all times, and then navigate through the opinion shaping process. Moving forward, social influence. We talked about influences on a regular basis. As a leader, you have to create this influence. So what is social influence? It's a influence that comprises the ways in which individuals change their behavior to meet the demands of a social environment. It takes many forms and can be seen in conformity, socialization, peer pressure, obedience, leadership, persuasion, sales and marketing. These are areas where you actually create social influence. So basically, you are actually changing your philosophy, changing your mindset, changing your thought process based on social behavior that are prevalent in this market space, and you want to connect to that in pressure points and that socialization matrix, so that ultimately you are aligned with the way people are thinking. That sometimes is very important, because you don't want to go against the flow of the thoughts that are in the market. Sometimes you need to go against the grain, because you might have something magical, you might have something very extraordinary that others are not seeing. You may do that, but often that is not the case. Maybe majority of the time you have to go with the flow, because the flow is going in the right direction. So it might be Pareto optimum kind of situation, where 80% of the time you're going with the flow, 20% of the time you're going against the flow, creating the new enterprise or shaping the new enterprise in terms of their logic, in terms of their mindset, in terms of their behavior, etc. So these are issues that social enterprises, social influences create the enterprise's overall logic and direction. And you have to somehow inculcate the spirit and align yourself, so that you are part of the team of the team which is creating the social influence. You have aligned to that. So as a leader, you have to be also blending in with the overall structure and behavior and attitude of your team members. And then if you want to tweak with them, then you move in and you start changing things. So if you're a new leader in a new enterprise, you just don't want to come in and you don't want to toss things around from day one, trying to show that you're a different set of leader. Most chances are it may boomerang. So first, as a leader, you need to blend in with the environment and understand what's going on. And then you take a managed approach to changing certain things that you think are important. So you prioritize and then you start moving those things. And that's how you don't rock the boat while you are moving in the right direction. So these are important for any leader. So if you start thinking as to what I just suggested, that don't rock the boat, take the moment to understand your position or your new enterprise, and then slowly tweak and evolve. Then ultimately you will be a better leader and you will be with the flow of your peers, but at the same time ultimately you will be shaping their mindset through persuasion, through positive reinforcement, and pushing the right behaviors and right set of actions that they need to follow. And this is also true in creating the sales and marketing uh, perspective of any enterprise. If you don't develop the sales and marketing in line with what the people are wanting in the greater marketplace, you will not be creating a proper enterprise. People will not buy your products and services. So when we talk about products, we're also talking about ideas. Ideas also are sort of products. It's more intangible, but ideas take have a lot of meaning and they can shape things around as well. So moving forward, leadership and social influence. We had talked about the issue of persuasion before in our presentation. So persuasion is basically the act through which you convince people to do what you are thinking. So you have to bring them to listen to you. It's a lot of discussion, lot of information sharing. It's a long process, but through persuasion, you actually create the social influence and ultimately you lead. Lead with positive personal traits. If you are a person of positive traits, if you're a person who is responsible, who does what he says, who builds the perspective of logic within the enterprise, and who are spreading, happiness culture. Of course, efficiency and being effectiveness would be your overall traits as well. So if you have all these positive traits which are guiding you, you have the wisdom and knowledge to move your enterprise, then you will be creating this social influence through positive traits, and you will be leading as an influence, as act as a beacon of hope. So you are creating an influence over your people. You're acting with an influence on your people, and you're being the person bringing in the ray of hope. So you're the leader who is the transformational, has been wearing the transformational hat. It's very tedious at times. You don't want to be the beacon of hope all the time, every single issue. Then ultimately, again, we will go back to a one person enterprise. So everybody is sitting idle and waiting for the magic to take place through you. That is not a very good concoction of good leadership. Obviously, you want to lead. Well, obviously, you want to be a beacon, but you have to spread the hope, the ray of hope through other people as well. Leading through offering good service, offerings of uh, just cause, offerings of uh, offering proper solutions and guidance within the enterprise. You're offering set of tools, set of issues as a true leader, which are important in harnessing the ultimate enterprise to move in the right direction. So the ship called enterprise does not go into difficult storms. You're there as a guide, you're there as a strategist, you're there as a beacon of hope through uh, sharing your personal traits with your team members, through your positive outlook, through having a very strong persuasive mindset. That's how you would be influencing your team and leading into the enterprise. Moving forward, harmonic influence. This term comes from music. I've just coined it myself. Harmonics deals with music, it deals with impedance, it deals with distortion, sound distortion. A leader becomes successful when the harmonic influence supports him. So, what is this harmonic influence? We had already talked about. This is the influence of approaching your management in a soft, meaningful way, leading them through your dispassionate but yet visionary perspective, uh, being there with them and nurturing them. So that would be your approach to managing and leading, and this harmonics, the music that you want to blend within the enterprise will actually create that one wonderful string of one wonderful story for your organization. Build positive organizational energy. This is also a positive harmonics. If your music is creating discord, if your music has distortion, then obviously the same instruments can, you may feel like, I just want to stop listening to this music because it's not making sense. But at the same time, if you can streamline all the musical tools in a one grand orchestra, creating wonderful soft music, then you will feel on listening and listening in to the music. So the same situation can be turned positive, and the same situation can be turned negative. So as an enterprise, as a leader, you want to create the harmonics so that you're creating the positive energy within the enterprise. And then comes the organizational synergy. You have to go into your organization and start looking at what is making synergy. That means 2 plus 2, creating instead of 4, it's building momentum and giving you output of 5. So what are the synergistic issues which are in the enterprise that can be nurtured and nourished? You have to start picking those, weave them into your story and the fabric of the new enterprise. So the harmonics of creating a synergistic enterprise would be right, uh, would be thought of as one input that you should be putting a lot of emphasis on. And that's how the enterprise synergy will take place. And you will see other people coming in and strengthening your hand. You will not be the lone star. People will realize that through this process, more synergy can be harnessed, and people will jump into the bandwagon, and better output will come about. And then comes the, all the systems. You have to drive the systems and structure in line with the synergy. You're just not going to be, creating an environment for the synergy to take place. You have to push and drive the enterprise and create the structure within the enterprise so that the output is harmonic in terms of wonderful fluid motion, wonderful decision process, etc. So we know that in enterprises we have this term called, it's called the standard operating procedure, as we say it in the term SOP. So we realize that why do people create these SOPs? These are to create a harmonic enterprise. These are created to create an enterprise which are logical, which are flowing, where you don't have to deal with a firefighting mode on a daily basis on every single point. There are structure that you need to follow. So these are nothing but creating an harmonic influence on your enterprise. So as a leader, you need to build the harmonics of the enterprise. You need to build the social, uh, social energy and social compassion within the enterprise, so that you are creating a, a fluid, dynamic organization. Things will evolve better, things will move in the right direction, and synergy will take place. So harmonics is nothing but building the synergy in the enterprise and ultimately coming up with better outcome and efficiency. So we need to do that on a regular basis as a leader. And that's how you, and this is done through positive reinforcement and shaping of opinion on a regular basis. So moving forward, I have come to the end of my session. I end with a $1 million question. So today's $1 million question is, when do we know that only social influence cannot by itself solve a negative situation? And we have a second part to this question. What alternatives to follow in those conditions? So let me hit with the first question. Um, what, what is this question asking about? It's asking that when do we know that our social influence is not adequate and other inputs are needed? It becomes obvious when you are just trying to inspire people through your positive uh, mindset, your mental makeup, your positive traits. If you don't have the knowledge base, if you don't have the technology, if you don't have these, the issues which are so important in the supply chain that are needed for this outcome to take place, things will not work. So just having social influence is not adequate. And when you realize that social influence is not adequate, you have to do your math on a regular basis. You have to understand the processes on the ground that are needed to get to the final output. So if some of these tools are not there, you ought to be bringing those issues right into your enterprise and just bringing common sense into the engagement is important. What is the common sense? That you need these tools in order to produce the output. So if you don't do that, then things will not work. So that's the common sense you have to bring into the table. So the negative situation can never be overcome just by the positive influence or social influence. You have to build other inputs into the fabric of the change that you want to register for your organization. So what alternatives to follow in those conditions? I just talked about the alternatives. Bring in the other inputs, other attributes that are necessary. Maybe a consultant, maybe you have to spend on more marketing. Maybe you have to reduce your organizational size because the market is not there to support you with your cash flow issues at this point. So some of these other tools, other vital leadership traits, not just traits, logical traits you have to blend in with your enterprise. And that's how you can overcome a negative situation. And you should not just consider that only positive social influence can wade you through this negative context or negative situation that has been created. Other tools are also vital in shaping the enterprise forward. So with that $1 million question, I would like to end today's session, and back to you, Edward Probir Mondal. Thank you very much for listening in. I am Advocate Ziaur Rahman from Dhaka. I am the CEO of IITM. Back to you. Are you there, Edward? I am finished with my part of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we conclude our 46th episode of Leadership Speaker Series. Thank you very much, those who have uh, joined with us, and also will encourage others also to see our sessions. It will be there in our group, Facebook group, which is Prerona Television, and also it will be there on our Global Academy of Holistic Leadership and Coaching's official YouTube channel. And we do encourage you to see our next series. We're running every Wednesday at Mountain Standard Time, which is Edmonton, Calgary at 9 p.m. on Wednesday night, and Eastern Standard Time, which is Ottawa and Toronto, which will be 11 o'clock, 11 p.m. on Wednesday night. And Dhaka, Bangladesh, rest of the country in Bangladesh, it is on Thursday morning at 9, 9, 9 o'clock. And also in India, it is 8:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. With that, thank you very much, Advocate Jia Rahman, for your presentation. It was a very important topic, the how leadership is related to social influence. And thank you very much for sharing with us.
You're
With
welcome.
that, stay safe and stay blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.